Rubber Model Room welcomes all. Thanks for stopping by, answering the call. Ups and downs are normal for some of us. Many days I bet to get off this life bus. Media lights flicker, no shadow on the wall. Dreams on the ceiling, we run and then we fall. Sharing stories over paper cups. Wheels keep turning, but never enough. Life's a ride on a rickety old track, holding on tight, never looking back. In the Rubber Model Room, we could fight, rock, cry, love in this crazy ride.
Well, hello. Welcome into the Rubber Model Room. Today is Thursday, May 29th, 2025. It's hot in Texas. It's damn 93 degrees down here in the Houston area, so I'm hot. But what did come up and popped up on my feed, and I wanted to just throw this out there. It's going to be a very short video. A last-minute hearing was held this morning in front of the criminal presiding Judge Jennifer Green in the Lori Vallow Daybell case. She heard Daybell's motion to have Judge Justin Beresky removed from the case. I will tell you, Green did deny Daybell's motion, and Beresky will remain on the case. And jury selection was supposed to start this afternoon. I received a few, not personally, but I was watching Nate Eaton's Twitter feeds as he was updating throughout the day and stuff, and they've got a few jurors seated and everything. So this is all for the Brandon Boudreaux Brandon Boudreaux. My mind just blanked. The Brandon Boudreaux trial that will be starting, I believe, next week. So let's roll, and I want to play this court hearing.
Daybell appearances, please.
Attorney Kay, on behalf of the state, and for the record, the victim is appearing virtually.
Good morning, everyone. The court calls CR 2022-00124201. This is State versus Lori Daybell. Appearances, please.
Attorney Kay, on behalf of the state, and for the record, the victim is appearing virtually.
Thank you.
Lori Daybell for the defense. Pamela Hicks, Advisory Council.
Thank you. There was this got set very quickly. There was a media request that I became aware of in passing, literally on my way over here. I don't have a written request. I have not read all my email because I've been on the bench this morning. Do you want to make a record with regards to the media request from the state? Okay, from the defense?
No.
Okay. I don't see anyone here. I thought we would address it on the record, but I don't see anyone present from the media. Okay, I assume there's no objection if they come in. Ms. Kay?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Daybell?
I always object to them, yes.
Oh, you object to them?
Always.
Okay. Is there anything you wanted to put on the record?
No.
All right. My thought is if they come in, we can address it. All right. The court's, this is the oral argument on Ms. Daybell's motion for change of judge for cause. The court's in receipt of and has reviewed motion to disqualify judge. This was filed on May 20th, and the state's response to defendant's motion to disqualify judge. Ms. Daybell, I've read your motion. In summary, the way I read it, you're asking for the court to remove Judge Beresky for cause under Rule 10.1. You cite several reasons, specifically that he's denied various motions. You mentioned facial expressions. You mentioned a belt and his not allowing you to remove it. You assert that he violated your speedy trial. There's a mention of religious persecution and an allegation of personal bias. So you're going to get, and then the state's response is that simply the defendant does not establish judicial bias, appearance of bias, or fundamental error. Of course, under Rule 10.1, the court is evaluating whether or not Judge Beresky can be fair and impartial and whether he can conduct a fair and impartial trial in this matter. So I'm aware of the allegations. You'll have the opportunity to go first, then I'll allow the state and to address the court, and then you'll have the last word. Whenever you're ready, Ms. Daybell.
Okay. I did file this motion in this.
I'm sorry, can you pull the microphone?
Sorry. I did file this motion in this affidavit after several attempts to. I
made an oral motion with Judge Beresky and asked him to recuse himself because of the bias and prejudice that I had seen during our last trial and throughout the whole entire time that he has been the judge over all of these cases. And he refused to do so. So I thought I needed to put it in writing and put all my points in that I felt like were causing him to be biased and prejudiced against me, and that obviously you've read it, so you've seen all the different things that I put. There was an actual comment during trial when I was cross-examining one of the witnesses where he said to me directly after an objection from this state that I was comparing myself to biblical prophets, which I absolutely was not doing. And
liar.
I didn't even realize it until someone showed it to me on the FTR afterwards that he had even said that, because I was in the middle of questioning the witness. And so there's several times that he made comments directly to me. I tried to address this with him directly in our last hearing on May 14th, where I asked him why he had denied every single motion that I had ever filed in the last year and a half. And he said that my motions had no merit. I asked him if my prior defense team, that he denied all of their motions, that they had no merit as well. And then I asked him, my prior defense team before that, all the motions they filed were denied, and did they have no merit at all either? And I asked him again if he would recuse himself from this case so that I could get a judge that was impartial and fair and have a fair trial. That is my right, my 6th Amendment right and my 14th Amendment right to have a fair trial, an impartial trial, and not a judge who has some kind of bias against me.
All right, anything else? Thank you.
Judge, just the prior defense motions almost all exclusively dealt with motions to preclude the media. Judge Beresky applied the appropriate law in finding that the media had a right to be present and tried to limit it by saying things like they couldn't focus on the defendant's papers or things like that to mitigate any of the concerns by the defendant. All of the defendant's motions that she has filed have been without legal basis. They've been appropriately ruled on, and the state's motions set the state as one have been ruled on based upon, again, legal basis. So the fact, as the court is well aware, that the defendant has had all of the motions ruled against has no basis for bias if they're all been ruled on based upon the rules of law and the rules of evidence. So we see nothing that the defendant has provided here that would rise to a level to preclude or recuse Judge Beresky from this case.
Thank you. Ms. Daybell, you can have the last word.
Yes, also, along those lines, Your Honor, that's one thing that I asked Judge Beresky, is that he has denied all these motions with no finding of fact and no conclusion of law. I said, what is the finding of fact and conclusion of law? These are just denied, 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 denied. He's also denied several attempts for me to try to ask the state for discovery that he's just denied outright. And then as I keep filing more and more, as I find out what we don't have and I ask for it, I'm continually, even to last week, getting brand new discovery with brand new Bates numbers, stuff that they realized they never even had before that hadn't been turned over. And I've been asking Judge Beresky for these items for a year and a half. And I'm getting them 1 week before trial. We start picking our jury today. We're supposed to be doing our strikes today.
Should have got a lawyer.
Along those lines, I had this motion about the RAC belt that I had asked him about since we went through this whole trial, and there was times when the belt didn't fit around me, so it fell out of my clothing. We had to stop trial and I had to go fix it. And that is what MCSO recommended, that if that was too burdensome, that they would put an armed guard in the back. And because of the media that Judge Beresky has let into every single one of the hearings and the trial, that they already have an armed guard back there. So it wasn't going to cost the state any more money. It wasn't going to cost anything if he just had them remove the belt and went over the security that the MCSO actually recommended. Every single thing that I asked for has been denied. I feel like he does have a personal bias against me. And all I'm asking for, I went through a whole trial with him, even thinking he was biased against me before the trial started. I
That's
filed
your
for a
fault,
new
dummy.
motion because it came to our attention through the media. The media sent Judge Beresky a clip of one of the jurors saying that he found out about my prior convictions beforehand, before his deliberations. And this is the same exact juror who was brought in twice during trial by Judge Beresky, where he had to admonish him for, one, being on his phone, and two, talking to one of the other jurors about the case. And now he's saying, well, he went on another media thing and said that he took it back. He took back what he said. So I'm not going to give you a new trial. And nothing was done about it. He refused to call them in and have a hearing and put him on the stand under oath and ask him if he found out this information prior to deliberations. It was very confusing, and everything is just outright denied. I want to go to trial. I want to have a fair trial, as fair as possible. I don't feel like I can do that with Judge Beresky, and I would like to be appointed a new judge who wouldn't know anything about the case and be fair and as impartial as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. I've considered the written motion and the response, and certainly your comments today from both sides. Ms. Daybell, I find that the fact that you disagree with Judge Beresky's substantive legal rulings is not a valid basis under Rule 10.1 to grant your motion and give you a new judge. The standard in 10.1 is, has he demonstrated he can't be fair and impartial? And the fact that his rulings have not gone your way is not a valid basis to suggest that he can't be fair and impartial. Unless there's some other allegation of bias that's been demonstrated, I don't find on this record that it has been demonstrated. I certainly understand your frustration with the way that the rulings have come out, and it sounds like the way that they came out with prior counsel, but the things that you have cycled through at length in your motion to disqualify, I've considered all of them. Whether or not he should have ruled differently, for example, the example you gave with the juror, or with making findings of fact and conclusions of law in writing, some of the issues you have, if you have concerns about his substantive legal rulings, you can file a motion to reconsider, or you can take them up on appeal. You can file a special action. You have a number of legal remedies at your disposal where you can make those arguments, but they're not grounds under Rule 10.1 to get a new judge. So I am going to deny your motion. Again, as for your concern about his substantive legal rulings, you can address those concerns in a different way, but it would not be under a 10.1. And on this record, I don't find that he's demonstrated that he can't be fair and that he can't be impartial. I also wanted to address the comment that he made that you illustrated. That comment alone doesn't demonstrate that he can't be fair and impartial. I'm not exactly sure of the context where he made it, but it sounds like he let you ask a question with regards to religion, and that was his decision. But again, I don't think even that demonstrates that he can't be fair or impartial in this case. All right, so I'm denying the request to disqualify Judge Beresky under Rule 10.1. Is there anything else from the state?
No, Your Honor.
Anything else, Ms. Daybell?
Nope.
Thank you, we are adjourned.
Okay. And I'm froze. My computer just froze. My computer froze for a moment there. Okay, so I want to go over here. We're going to share this tab instead real quick. Now that we're unfrozen. So on Nate's thing, he did say, I believe that, see, there was a last minute hearing. I was trying to see. Lori walked in, is wearing orange steel uniform. Her hair is curled, noticeably lighter. She smiled and said a few words to her advisory counter. Beresky is now on the bench. Judge mentions a glitch with the juror identification system. Apparently, his numbering system has been changed. Parties are working to make sure they can accurately see the information. The issue's been resolved. Beresky begins reading down the list. First person has a job that would prevent them from serving. They were dismissed. Another juror is excused because they have knowledge of the case. Another juror is excused because they have non-refundable vacation planned. One juror advances. Another is excused for childcare issues. Another is excused because they have difficulty understanding English and they don't live in Maricopa County. Another juror has to work at Comic-Con during the trial, and that person is excused. So we're on the 12th potential candidate, and so far 3 have advanced. Other jurors have vacations plans, need to work, or have other knowledge of the case. Beresky moving rapidly down the list. We're on juror number 19 now. He reads their number, explaining some information that was on the survey, and then prosecution and defense each weighed in on whether the person should stay or leave. So far, 6 have remained in the pool. Another potential juror would need the court to supply an Uber. Okay. Court supply Ubers. I didn't know that. Another has watched a TV show about the case. So we're on number 30. 8 have advanced. These Maricopa County residents all received questionnaires last week asking about their knowledge of the case and whether they could serve. Tomorrow, the jury will be selected. 12 jurors, 4 alternates. They are aware that they are picked. The trial will run June 2nd through 13th and possibly June 23rd. We're now on number 40 by my count. 11 possible jurors have advanced. One of the potential jurors is a defense attorney and appeared as legal correspondent about the case on a local TV broadcast. That person is excused. Next juror has 8 children at home. That person's excused for hardship. Another juror is dismissed as they've had traumatic brain injury. On juror number 50, so far we have 12 who have advanced. We're on to juror number 62 now. Several are being excused for different reasons, hardships, bias. 1 watched the last trial. 15 potential jurors have now advanced. Brandon Boudreaux just popped up on the Zoom screen. We saw him momentarily, and then he turned his camera off. Judge reads off juror number 70. That person has prior knowledge of the defendant and child care issues. Brandon is allowed to watch and be in the courtroom for the entire trial as he is the victim. He is on the witness list and is expected to take the stand. Next juror is a detention officer who has transported Lori. So he's also read about the case. So he's dismissed. We're now on juror 81. We have nearly 20 people who advanced in the pool now. We're on juror 90. Lots of different hardships in the last batch, resulting in many dismissals. Employers in Arizona are not required by law to compensate employees while they are on jury duty. Jurors who have been selected receive $12 per day plus mileage, 67 cents a mile. Jurors can apply for additional compensation if they need financial assistance during jury service. We have made it through 100 jurors, and around 24 have advanced into the pool. One juror says they don't trust police. Lori wants them to remain in the pool and says they can be questioned during the voir dire. Judge says they clearly wrote, "I don't trust police." Judge overrules Lori's objection and the juror is dismissed. Next juror says they will be in Idaho for a family reunion next week. Good place to have a reunion. I hear it's much cooler this time of year. Jurors dismissed. During the last trial, 52 potential jurors advanced, and then 16 jurors were picked from that group. It took about 90 minutes to get those 52. We're about halfway to 52 and been in court for around an hour. It seems far more jurors have heard about Daybell versus the last trial. We've got 2 potential jurors in a row who advanced, a rare occurrence this afternoon. And then yet another one just advanced. We're on 137. Around 30 have advanced thus far. Majority of jurors have excused them because they have knowledge of the case or Lori. Brandon Boudreaux's wife has joined the hearing via Zoom. All Zoom cameras are off. We've gone through 150 juror numbers. I'm counting 29 advancements, but could be off by a number or 2. Judge says we'll do a few more, and then we'll give the court reporter a break. Jury selection is not being televised or live streamed. A standby videographer from Fox 10 is here in case the judge decides to hear other motions. The video will be shared with media outlets should that happen. Judge says we're a little over halfway through the first, taking a short recess. Back on the record, we're on juror 157. There are 295 people in the pool, and that judge has to work through today. And that is the end of it. That's all he wrote. So, for all y'all out there interested in what happened with Lori Vallow Daybell today, there's your recap. And the dogs are starting to get rowdy, so it's time for Rubber to say peace. Rubber out. See y'all later. Y'all have a great night.